The last thing we need to talk about is what you're going to do with this color information and this new found object still life you've built. As I mentioned before, I want you to make a separate drawing. It's just a sketch like this. And I want you to go in and with that piece of paper, with the tiny hole cut into it, I want you to examine your still life photo, find the colors, come up with some names for colors that work for you, whatever they are. Plug those names into your drawing just to help you map things out. I want you to take a really analytical approach to this to start with. Once we have some skills under our belt, we can loosen up and become a little bit more intuitive. But for now, let's try to be kind of scientific about it and break things apart as best we can. So this is your drawing that you've done on the side. Now we're going to get to the painting. I'm going to do a very small demonstration of how to approach this painting on my iPad. Obviously, you're not doing it on your iPad. You're going to do it on your canvas, whichever piece of canvas you choose. Canvas paper, loose canvas, if you have a stretched canvas, whatever you want to choose. I'm just going to walk you through how to translate the painting process that we've already learned and apply it to this new local color kind of painting. Okay, so now this has transformed. Pretend this is my piece of canvas paper with my drawing, with a light sketch on it. I'm mixing up my paints. I've got my water, I've got my brushes, I've got my palette knife. I've examined my colors so I kind of know what colors I'm going to be using. Okay, so let's pretend this is my actual painting. Since we looked at the lemon, I'm going to use that as an example. The way that we use the painting process we've already learned, but apply this new local color scheme to it, is we're going to follow that same method of going for the largest shapes first. And we're only going to worry about 2 or 3 values within those shapes. So I chose a yellow. It's kind of on the orange side, slightly more orange, just like what we examined for my lemon. The way to do this, you're going to use a fairly large brush, and I'm going to paint in the entire object. I'm doing it twice, maybe a third time, just to make sure it's nice and opaque. Okay, that's my first layer on that lemon. Then I'm going to go on to all my other stuff, anything and everything else that I'm working with. Whatever my mid-tone for this silver thing is. Okay, I'm going to go around and plug that in. And of course, I need this background. You cannot forget all the ground that's around this stuff. So the way I'm choosing which color to use is whatever is the mid-tone. So for the lemon, for example, I did not choose, let me turn this back on. With my lemon, I chose this mid-tone orange to cover the entire object on the first pass. I did not choose the highlight. I did not choose the shadow. It would have worked. You could make that work. If you do that, it's not a big deal. But this makes most sense to me. I go for the mid-tone, cover the entire thing. Then on my second pass, I'm adding the highlights and I'm adding the shadows. It cuts down the number of times that I need to go over the same area. So now let's pretend I've covered everything else. Okay, so everything else is covered in my first layer, finding the mid-tone of everything that's in there. And I'm coming back now to my lemon. I'm going to add in my highlight. And I'm going to add in my shadow. I'm going to go around to each subsequent object after that. And I'm going to do the same thing. Highlights, shadows. So in this way, I'm slowly building all of these objects, starting with that mid-tone for big objects, for big shapes. And then on my second pass, I'm going for the next smaller kind of shapes or areas, hitting the highlights and the shadows. And of course, that means cast shadows, the ground itself. We have to fill this whole canvas. So that's the really basic, bare bones way that we translate the way we already know how to paint and use that technique in conjunction with our local color scheme. So give that a try. It can take a few tries to really make it work for you, but don't give up.